Call to order this meeting of Monongalia County Commission, September 13th, 2017. Let the record reflect that all of the three commissioners are present. Please stand for a moment of silent meditation and then the pledge to the flag, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Renetta, consent and approval. Good morning. How are you?
Under the weather, but we're muddling through.
understand.
Exonerations, we have 39 listings for $18,040.29. Vouchers for general county, $92,757.61. Coal severance, $7,089.23. 911, $10,921. Chestnut Ridge Park, $5,066.21. Mason-Dixon Park, $809.88. Assessor's valuation, $10,467.75. Law enforcement forfeiture, $51.89. Morgantown Industrial TIF, $121,264.63. Purchasing card vouchers for general county, $14,243.97. Magistrate Court, $57.95. 911, $9,890.10. Chestnut Ridge Park, $176.60. Assessor's valuation, $591, for a voucher total of $273,387.82. We have position vacancies for boards and authorities: the West Rand Board of Zoning Appeals, Planning Commission, Mon County Historic Landmarks Commission, Deckers Creek PSD, the Development Authority, the Building Commission, and Abandoned Dilapidated Property Enforcement Agency. Fiduciary order, September 13th, 2017.
Move for approval.
Second with discussion.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded for discussion.
I just want to note that the Development Authority position, that is a position that resides with municipality, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not an open position to the
They,
public?
Granville will need to, well,
Yes.
after you accept.
Yes. Okay, that's all I want to note.
It's been properly moved and seconded to accept. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Introduction of new employees. Prosecuting attorney, I believe, is up first.
Good morning,
Good morning.
gentlemen.
Good to see you.
Good to see you all, too. Today, I have to introduce to you Casey Fursell, who comes to us really by way of Florida today. She has moved back up here after graduating from WVU with a bachelor's degree in political science. Casey is going to be a part-time employee in our victim witness coordinator position. We have a full-time position that Danielle Kitchen is our director, and then we have two part-time. We have previously hired one of the first part-time employees, and Casey is going to be our second part-time employee, and we're happy that she's made it through the weather of Florida and come back to Morgantown to resume her employment, and her family is resuming studies at WVU as well. So we're happy to have her here with your approval.
Move for approval?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Sheriff?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have,
Thank you.
this,
Thank you.
Morning.
morning. I have with me Samantha Pillar. Samantha's already been in our process of transport. I'm now appointing her as a supervisor down there. Amanda Ritchie has resigned. So Samantha, she's been on the job for a couple weeks getting trained, and she'll be starting at $2,875 per month as the new supervisor for process transport. The other two, Jared Leneve and also Eric Wilson, will be moving from part-time to full-time. These are positions from part-time to full-time that we needed filled. These are not the ones from last week when we combined two. These are the
Oh, these are different ones.
These are
Okay.
different?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Move
For
approval.
approval?
Go ahead.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
welcome all. Thank you. Are there any other introductions from new employees? Hearing none, we'll move to comments from the public. Now open for comments from the public. If you wish to speak, you may. You have 3 minutes. Please state the name.
Nobody?
Hearing none, we will close comments from the public. Colleen, have we grants?
I received 2 grant contracts in the mail this past Monday. They're both for the JJDP program. One is for Voices 2, and the other one is for the DMC grant. And I'll read the resolution first that needs to be signed. The Monongalia County Commission met on Wednesday, September 13th, 2017, with a quorum present and passed the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Monongalia County Commission hereby authorizes the Honorable Edward A. Hawkins, President of the Monongalia County Commission, to act on its behalf to enter into a contractual agreement with the Division of Justice and Community Services to receive and administer grant funds pursuant to the provisions of the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Grant Program. The other resolution says the exact same thing. Would you like me to read that as well?
No, it
Okay.
won't be necessary.
And then you'll have to sign the contract, standards and conditions and assurances, certification regarding lobbying, debarment, suspension, and other responsibility matters, and drug-free workplace requirement, and the EEOP certification for both grants.
Move for approval for the president to sign.
Second?
Been properly moved and seconded for me to allow to sign these documents. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, those later. Okay. Scheduled next on the agenda, but at 10:30 is a presentation by Mr. Williams. We'll go on to correspondence at this time, please. Renetta?
Yes, sir. We've received a letter from Town Manager Ron Snyder. Effective immediately, I'm resigning from the MCDA, MAP, and the Dilapidated Structure Committee. I feel my time would be better utilized in dealing with the needs of Grantville.
Move for approval?
Second with comment.
Been properly moved and second for comment.
We received this letter after the, I've got to know Ron since I've been on the commission, and I think he's a very stand-up guy, and I really I liked working with him. It's unfortunate, but it's his decision, and hopefully we'll be working together in some other capacity down the road.
So,
I just want to make sure, could we then send a letter just to remind the town of Granville that an opening is in the Development Authority?
well, I think the letter should be reflected. Let's send 2 letters if we're going to
Okay.
send a letter. Let's send a letter to Ron expressing the fact
Appreciate
that we appreciate all that he has done on behalf of the boards and committees that he served on, first of all, and then
Yes.
to the city of Granville, making sure that they are aware that they have an appointment to the Development Authority, I believe, that they have to be responsible for.
Thank you.
So, been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? to Accept
Aye.
this? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Next.
Yes, sir. We have a letter of engagement for Dinsmore and Shoal relating to legal advice on certain ad valorem tax issues related to public and private developments. I actually signed this last week, so I just need to read it into record. We're just engaging them for hopefully a short time to give us some legal advice on an MOU for the public-private developments.
Do we need a motion to,
Acceptable.
so move?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other correspondence?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving on, any unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move to new business. First, consideration of a request by Caritas House Incorporated for funding toward an emergency cold weather shelter during the winter season of 2017 to 2018.
You all provided $5,000 of funding last year.
Up to $5,000.
I'm sorry,
$5,000.
yes, up to
Yes.
$5,000. I don't believe they used that whole amount, but they are, again, requesting funding, so whatever your wish would be.
I'd like to move that we provide up to $5,000 for this shelter.
A second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second to provide this funding up to but not exceeding that amount of $5,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. To consider request by Matthew Dreyer, General Manager of the West Virginia Black Bears, for financial assistance with the Home Run and Hawks event scheduled for September 30th, 2017 at the Monongalia County Ballpark.
I will move for discussion that we consider putting $5,000 from our $25,000 line item.
Move second with discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
It is properly moved and seconded.
Go
for
ahead, and
discussion.
then
Is Matt here?
Okay.
No.
No, he couldn't make, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you can just provide a little
Sure.
bit more detail about last year's event and,
Yeah, what they are doing, one of the decisions we have made as the three-county
This
commission.
is actually an initial event, if I'm not mistaken.
No, this
No,
is
they
the
had a
This is
second.
actually the second time. The
event,
first one
but
was
we-
short.
We
yeah.
did not
Okay.
give them funding last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
They did not
Okay, I
request
didn't
funding.
recall.
Right. Well, the difference is this year is that we've been trying to promote more events at the baseball stadium that were non-WVU and non-Black Bear, and this was for the community type events. In our contract, we have $25,000 from WVU that allows us, they give us the funds, and then we try and help promote those events.
Now,
Is that correct?
Just make one point that the $25,000 is a lease payment from
It's a lease.
WVU.
Lease payment.
And we agreed
We
that.
have designated it
or you all
as-
agreed that.
To
For this
put back
purpose.
into,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm asking the five, because we've not done more than 5,000 on events, and this way it allows us to have other events that may come up.
Yep. And some of the other events we've already done is we did the W Medicine event, and I can't remember what it was called.
MHSU, yeah, and
Yes,
MHSUHS
baseball.
baseball.
And then we
they
sponsor-
had some other smaller events there.
Yeah, and we also have something else that I believe I was contacted a couple months ago, and I forwarded on to Matt, and he'd already worked with Matt Wells Matt Dreyer had worked with Matt
Yeah.
Wells to clear the event, but there's a 6-team baseball
Right.
tournament scheduled for next May.
Okay.
That, again, that will be another thing that
Yes.
we anticipate funding out of this. So our intent is to have public events at
Exactly.
the ballpark, and I'm fine with the approval of the $5,000.
And I think
Is that it
that's
up to, or just 5?
5,000.
Okay, because they had requested 10.
Yeah.
The other issue, I think, is to be understood that this is for this year only. We may
Yes.
not be in the position to be funding these events through this.
I'll add that to the motion for 1 year only.
And it's to cover 2 local bands, sound, stage rental, local advertising to help promote an event.
Clean up, yeah,
Yes.
clean up and costs.
And that's consistent with what we've been
Yes.
paying for, is we've been paying for basically cleanup of the park, security, and those type of things.
Correct.
I would make one suggestion.
Sure.
That we come up with some policies and procedures regarding these kind of requests.
Why don't we
don't really
put,
have
okay,
anything.
Well, let's go
Kind of
ahead
set up.
and
approve this.
approve this.
Sure.
and
Put it on a
then we-
work session. I think that's a good point. We do need to set up some parameters. Okay.
Because otherwise, you're going to be inundated with
Yes.
requests on a limited amount of funding. Okay?
Yes.
So it's been properly moved and seconded for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, to consider approval to sign the master open end lease agreement with the with the Merchants Fleet Management for Monongalia County Fleet Financing and Management Program. Sean?
Okay, I will address that. That we are not currently ready to sign that agreement. I have been working with merchants to go over, after we determined that they were the successful offer to our fleet management RFP. I went into negotiations with them and have been reviewing their master lease terms and agreement, terms and conditions. I forwarded to Phil. Phil did an initial, Phil is our legal counsel. He did an initial review, and he came back to me with 4 comments, and then I added 10 more comments that I sent on to merchants. They responded back pretty timely. I sent them on Friday. They responded back, and we set up a call. I believe that was Monday or Tuesday. But we went through each one of the ones. There are no showstoppers. There was only one item that I would have considered to be critical, and that was easily fixed. And the only holdup is I had suggested some alternative indemnity language, and they had to pass it by their attorneys first. But for the most part, we're ready to go, and we'll have that. We'll ask that it be put on next week's agenda, and we'll have that ready to sign.
Okay.
In addition to that, and I told them that they could change. We had a meeting scheduled for Friday to start talking about what our process would be going forward. And I said, well, without a signed agreement, that's your choice whether you want to, spend your time and come here. And they're still coming because they don't see this being an issue. So we'll have the agreement ready to sign next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Next, consideration of signing the final order prepared by the County Commission denying the application for annexation by the town of Granville. We are going to read this into the record, so please bear with me. It is a little bit lengthy, but it is.
Let me move to approve it so you can
Okay.
move to approve with discussion.
Second.
All right,
Okay.
then properly moved and seconded for discussion, and I will read this. To the Honorable Patricia A. Lewis, Mayor, Town of Granville, concerning the Town of Granville's application for annexation by minor boundary adjustments. Dear Mayor Lewis, pursuant to West Virginia Code 8-6-5, this letter shall serve as the Monongalia County Commission's, hereafter Commission, final order, setting forth the basis for the Commission's denial of the Town of Granville, hereafter Granville, request to annex 117.88 acres, more or less, of land into Granville by minor boundary adjustment. In reaching this decision, the Commission considered the opinions and facts as presented in Granville's application presented to the Commission on July 26, 2017, and at the public hearing for the proposed annexation, which was conducted during the Commission's regular meeting held on August 23, 2017. Thereafter, August 30, 2017, a motion to deny Granville's application was made by Commissioner Tom Bloom and seconded by Commissioner Sean Sikora, with the Commission voting unanimously to deny Granville's application. According to West Virginia Code 8-6-5, there are 7 factors at a minimum to be considered. With all due consideration, the petition was denied based on factual evidence and conclusion drawn therefrom as follows. 1. Whether the territory proposed for annexation is contiguous to the corporate limits of the municipality. Granville's application set forth the area proposed for annexation. Though most of the proposed area met the threshold to be considered contiguous, there was question regarding whether the proposed section from Route 19 north to the Granville Volunteer Fire Department, hereafter GBFD, Event Center met the threshold. In reaching its decision, the Commission noted that Granville's own application acknowledged that the proposed area is not contiguous. Though the statute is silent regarding shoestring, strip, or corridor-type annexation, in this instance, the Commission agrees with Granville regarding this portion of the proposed property. Number 2, whether the proposed annexation is limited solely to a division of highways right-of-way or whether the division of highways hold title to the property in fee. Granville has not met this threshold, inasmuch as Granville acknowledged in the August 23, 2017 hearing that the West Virginia DOH had not been contacted regarding this matter. Number 3, whether affected parties of the territory to be annexed oppose or support the proposed annexation. During the public hearing, Ron Snyder, Granville's city manager, was the only individual to speak in favor of Granville's application. Granville also provided a letter with their application from the GBFD and a survey response from Sheets Incorporated, an affected business, which indicated approval of the proposed annexation. Additionally, a second survey response from First United Bank and Trust, hereafter First United, an affected business, was provided indicating their approval for the Commission to schedule a public hearing. However, First United did not indicate approval or disapproval of Granville's proposed annexation. All other residents, business owners, and those directly or indirectly affected by the annexation who spoke on the August 23, 2017 public hearing spoke in opposition to the annexation. The affected residents and or business owners who spoke amounted to 1 property owner, 1 current resident, and 2 business owners representing 3 business entities. Each of these individuals spoke against annexation. In addition, a resident of neighboring Osage and a business owner that services the affected area expressed their opposition to the proposed annexation. The Commission took all public comment and all the information provided in Granville's application into consideration. It was noted that of all those who spoke in opposition to Granville's application, only 1 testifying resident actually lives in the planned annexation area. It was also noted that Granville provided the Commission with a copy of public notices regarding the annexation proposal, which did not contain complete and accurate information regarding the anticipated impact Granville's application would have on the residents and businesses in the affected area. Excuse me. As I said, it is rather lengthy. 4, whether the proposed annexation consists of a street or highway as defined in Section 35, Article 1, Chapter 17C of this code, and one or more freeholders. The Commission notes no objection to this item. Number 5, whether the proposed annexation consists of a street or highway as defined in Section 35, Article 1, Chapter 17C of this code, which does not include a freeholder, but which is necessary for the provision of emergency services in the territory being annexed. The Commission notes no objection to this item. Whether another municipality has made application to annex this same or substantially the same territory. No other municipality has made application to annex the same or substantially the same territory as being requested by Granville. Lastly, number 7, whether the proposed annexation is in the best interest of the county as a whole. To serve in the best interest of the county, the residents and businesses affected should receive enough positive impact to make annexation acceptable to the majority of both. It is the Commission's opinion there was no demonstration of either. Granville has stated that affected property owners would receive the benefit of lower insurance rates. However, these same property owners would be required to pay additional property taxes, and the overall net effect was not addressed as part of Granville's application or during the public hearing. Likewise, Granville also stated that the affected business owners would receive the benefit of lower insurance rates, but would be required to pay B&O taxes and possibly additional property taxes. Again, no cost-benefit conclusion to the net effect was provided or could be discerned. The Commission commends Granville for taking steps to attempt to improve and promote the economic growth in this area, but its application did not provide enough information to make a confident determination as to the actual impact on the affected residents and businesses. Although approval of the application would likely benefit Granville, it would not, in the opinion of the Commission, benefit the county as a whole. The Commission has taken the time to include and consider public comment and writings in this decision by holding a public hearing. All discussions have been held during our regular Commission meetings, where we have listened to members of the business community, freeholders, public officials, and constituents at large. Statutorily, the burden is on Granville to satisfy the application requirements, to meet the criteria of the statute, and present its case to the Commission. However, it's also important for Granville to make its case to the affected parties, and the utility of trying to arrive at mutually beneficial relationships should not be discounted. In conclusion, by unanimous vote of the Commission, this final order shall confirm the decision to deny Granville's application for annexation by minor boundary adjustment that has been duly brought before us for our consideration, Monongalia County Commission.
If I may.
You may.
Just 2 quick comments. First, I do want to thank my fellow county commissioners. This was not easy. We spent several weeks on this, and I appreciate that the decision is made as a county commission. The other comment I want to make it very clear, this is only relating to this specific annexation issue. That's it.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, and I stated that on multiple occasions, that it wouldn't be fair that if we were thinking of other things when we were addressing this. So we only addressed what was in front of us and what was presented to us. And I think we did a fair analysis, and I appreciate the other commissioners, our counselors' work, Renetta's work in pulling this together and providing a succinct number of reasons for our decisions. And I also appreciate Ed you reading that off. I couldn't have done that.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next, to consider requisition number 12 for the University Town Center Economic Opportunity Development District sub-account. Renetta?
Yes, sir. This is for the month of August. There is $123,158.89 available to be transferred to make a payment towards the bonds. So this is for the University Town Center requisition number 12.
Move for approval?
Second?
Been properly moved and second for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
To consider signing the final order in regard to civil action number 15-C-725, Baker Curtin versus Monongalia County Commission in accordance with the order by Monongalia County Circuit Court Philip D. Gougeot.
Move for approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Consideration of acceptance of the draft of the fiscal year 16 audit as prepared by Perry and Associates and authorize the president to sign the corresponding closing documents.
Move for approval?
Second?
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any other? Hearing none, we shall remove to reports from elected officials. Is there any elected official who wishes to speak at this time? Seeing no one taking the podium, we will go to reports from county commissioners. Tom?
Just so for those individuals who cannot be here for the 10:30 presentation, we're going to have two ways we're going to be able to view it. First, we're going to have West TV that always puts on YouTube the entire county commission meeting, and then I asked with the permission of the other two county commissioners to have a separate video, so we will put it on so people can go directly to the internet, so they'll be able to see the presentation. And I do want to thank West TV for that.
Sean?
And I won't go long so that we can get into the DOH meeting, but it's been a busy couple of weeks. This week's shaping up to be just as busy. Monday, I had my regular the county commission IT progress to keep making sure that our initiatives in regards to our IT infrastructure are moving forward, and that's all been moving positively. And I also had a Morgantown Area Partnership Executive Committee and Budget Team meeting, and those people will be meeting with us this afternoon to give us an update. On Tuesday, I had the contracts discussions with Merchants Fleet Services, and last night I went to my first school board meeting, which was interesting. We are so much shorter than them, so I appreciate the way that Commissioner Hawkins keeps our meetings moving and on time.
Thank you.
Today's obviously a full day, right up until the end of the day. We have a lot of actions going on, and I almost forgot that we have our Community Leaders Forum meeting tonight, so almost left that off my calendar. Tomorrow I have a red team, the Morgantown Airport, the runway extension development team meeting at 10, and then the Development Authority meeting after that at noon. And then Friday we have our fleet management vendor coming in for a meeting, so it's a busy schedule.
I did attend the Westridge bid opening. There were two bids. This was on Friday, and representing commission, and happy to report that I believe the developers were happy because the two bids were keeping in line with what they anticipated for the cost of the project. So that was good. I will not be at the forum meeting tonight because tonight I will be at Planning Commission representing this commission. Tomorrow, of course, is the Met Theater Commission meeting and that we have. That's in conjunction with what goes on with the city and the Met Theater. So that being said, I will take a motion for adjournment.
Well, no.
We have the DOE.
We
Oh,
have
that's
to-
right.
yeah.
I'm sorry, we do have the DOH.
There's a lot of people here to see
We
that.
will have a work session afterwards, but
We do have the
yes.
work session. All right.
Mr. Wood.
Mr. Williams, let's get set up for you.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
set
I'm
it-
sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you out, all right? We can have a little bit of levity here, all right? I just looked up there and adjournment was next. I knew that I had put you to the end of the meeting, but
Hey guys, they all took our PowerPoint up. Well, good morning.
Morning.
good morning.
In the right, to the right, in the green bag.
Oh.
Did you sign those
I
yet?
didn't see that. I didn't see it, thanks. You're a busy man.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Hawkins, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How you doing? Great. Thank you. Oops, sorry. Okay.
You don't have to worry about it now.
This is for the second part, when we talked about the 150,000,
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
the little map of where we're.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, that'd be fine. Why don't you tell Ed, they want to pass a sign? No, they just wanted.
Okay. We do have a sign-up sheet that is going to be passed around the room. If you would please go ahead and sign in.
If you take care of that, please.
lose all the things we're supposed to, okay, that's done, right?
Yes,
All right,
it's the only thing that's done.
okay. Yes.
Do you want to lower some of the lights?
That would be fine if they can see it better.
Okay.
That comes on your screens also, does it not?
No.
No, we haven't gotten to that yet.
We're a work in progress.
We're close, but we're not there yet, so,
What's tough, you have such a low ceiling.
Yeah.
You know,
They
for
want some of the-
presentation, it's tough.
Yes.
Can you dim
You
some
do
of the
76
lights when you get a
inch
chance,
TVs
Bobby?
on 12.
Yeah.
Like, do something with the lights whenever you get a chance.
Yeah.
Bobby, if you could see that the lights are dimmed a little bit.
What do you mean? How, whatever you guys, I don't know, whatever would be easier for everybody to see.
May have to sit up, last time I had to sit up here and
Click it, yeah.
You can pull one of those chairs over if you want for the table.
Here's all this.
Okay, just put it there, yeah, put it there for now, please. Trying to get these grants while they're getting ready.
Yeah.
I can do it, I mean, I'm right here. You just tell me when the move's done.
we'll probably want to, yeah, situate it a little bit so that everyone can see it. Yeah, commissioners need to see it.
Well,
We're fine.
Turn a little bit more.
Let's please aim toward the audience, okay? We do understand what, you know, what you're talking about.
And we can see it,
We've gone
yeah.
on, and we can see it, okay? So,
Do they
this is for the public. And when you're ready, go ahead and proceed.
see the screen?
Well, everybody see it's pretty good?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's on.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
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 I really appreciate, I'm Don Williams from the Division of Highways. I'm the district manager for District 4. And I would like to introduce my staff I brought with me, because if something goes wrong, you can blame them. The gentleman walking back is J.J. Jordan. He's my maintenance engineer, oversees all our maintenance forces. Mr. Pumphrey in the green tie, he works in our design section. Mr. Vincent, sitting in the back, is our design engineer. He's the one that actually puts plans, and we have him here also to talk about the $150,000 project. We have Mr. Weaver, one of our maintenance assistants here, does a lot of work, and Dave McCormick. Does anybody have a pothole? Hard today.
Oh,
Okay.
you shouldn't have said that.
And we also invited Bill Austin, because a lot of the MPO's work has been
Right.
very influential in what we've done here. So thank you with that. But we do appreciate the opportunity to come and make this presentation. And then afterwards, if you'd like to ask any questions, we'll be glad. We did give a handout this morning concerning, let me grab one of the handouts. We did give a handout to the audience, which has some of the more specific details about this. So with that said, if we'll go to the first slide, please. This program, or the bond program, and its different parts to it, is part of what we've called Governor Justice's initiatives. He really believes, if you looked at the state address, his first one, of the importance of roads. This is actually to our employees' children. And they had this big vision concerning the roads, the repairing of the roads, new construction of roads in West Virginia. And it's important to understand the governor's vision and the opportunity that's set before us. Now, as the Division of Highways, we're not here to tell anyone from the commission to the audience, wherever they may be, on how to vote for this. What we are here to do to present facts about the bond program and answer questions concerning the bond program. But this came out of an initiative, a vision. It's called the Roads to Prosperity. Governor Justice was actually in our district down in Clarksburg a few weeks ago and actually spoke about this to much of the press. Next, please. Now, what are the things that help put this in place? There are several factors, and I won't try to bore you with all the legislation, but the first thing involved the public-private partnerships. And this was just an avenue for which we can do some of the bigger projects. Here in Morgantown, for example, you see private partnerships where different groups, different organizations come together along that. Design Build, House Bill 2722, the interchange at exit 143. There at West Ridge and the ballpark he was talking about for the Black Bears. That was a design build project, and that's a mechanism. It oftentimes allows us to get projects done much quicker because it plays upon the strengths of the contractor working with consultants to get the work done. The next thing we'll talk about are the Garvey bonds. Now, one thing I need to talk about and be very clear about, there's two sets of bonds that's being associated here with the funding to do some of the work we're talking about. The first is a set of Garvey bonds. I'll be very clear about this, that the Garvey bonds is not what you're voting on
Right.
on October 7th. But what Garvey bonds is, and it's interesting to note, there was legislation passed which allowed us to take federal money. Every year, the Division of Highways or Department of Transportation receives so much federal funds, and that's usually pretty well projected over so many years. What a Garvey bond is the ability to take some of that future money, I think it was around $23 million a year, pull that forward, make a payment to get a bond up to $500,000. They broke this down, and sometimes on the forums and the things you see on the internet, they called it Garvey 1 and Garvey 2. Now, what's interesting, yesterday, the Division of Highways had maybe one of the biggest lettings in their history. $197 million of projects were let yesterday to contract. All those projects were Garvey 1, okay? And the way the bonds work, and the Garvey bonds in particular, the projects have to be let. They get an X amount of money. In this case, it was around 198 million. And they'll now go after the bond to pay for those projects. So yesterday, like I said, largest letting maybe in our history, one of the largest, 197-ish million, all Garvey bond money. But that is not what we're voting on. But what's important is it's one of the mechanisms they've been using to pull together funding to get work done now versus let's wait 10, 15 years down the road. And then the fees, the bill 1006, okay, the bill. These are public obligation bonds. Now, what happened in the legislative session, and most folks are aware of this, they did three things essentially. They increased your DMV fees, and I tell folks, I just did it myself. If you paid your registration on your car, you notice it went from like $30-some to $50-some. That additional money is part of that fee. You're paying extra for gas tax, okay? The gas tax, I believe, went up 3.5 cents. And then also, there's what they call the vehicle sales tax, or some have referenced that as the privilege tax. So when you go buy a new car, the tax you pay on that new car went up also. These three things in conjunction is what is the payment and the monies we have available to us to buy the public obligation bonds. Now, one of the things, and I want to make this, and I'll probably reiterate this multiple times as we go through the presentation, but one thing that's very important is this is already in place. July 1st, you start paying your additional fees. You start paying additional income tax. If you bought a new car, you pay the additional privilege tax or sales tax. And that when the bond, where it's passed or it's not passed, those fees will be in place. There is no additional fees, no additional taxes that comes as a result of passing the bond on October 7th. Next, please. So how does this work? The first one is fees. We just spoke about that, and estimates of those three has estimated that it will bring in approximately $130 million a year. Okay? They're going to take that money, and this is the way I illustrate it. That's your payment to be able to go out and purchase bonds up to $1.6 billion. Okay? Now, we just learned this, and we're still learning this too. You know, this process has been going fairly quickly. The way it's going to work is something like this. Just like we did the Garvey bonds, where I told you we just let all these projects. There's different waves or different times. Projects will be let as they're available to be let. So wave one may be next year. And what they have done is allocated over 4 years a rough proportion of bonds that equals 1.6 billion. The first year was 800 million. The second year was 600 million. Then year 3 was 200 million, and year 4 was around 200 million. So what they're trying to do on the front side, the first year of the bonds, they'll get these projects that are easier to go to contract. Most of the projects that you see that are larger are not designed yet, okay? So we need the lead time to do the environmental clearance, do the actual designs, get them ready for contract. On the front end is what I call the low-hanging fruit. These are projects that don't involve right-of-way, okay? These are like paving projects, bridge projects that don't have right-of-way, large slides, things like this. So what will happen is if the bonds pass, the first wave or the first phase, well, the Division of Highways will put together projects that can be let fairly easily, and similar to the Garvey bonds, they'll let those to contract, just like we just talked about. That money will come in, and they'll say, okay, it's $762 million in projects, and they'll buy those bonds. The bonds will not be purchased or interest paid or anything until that money is determined was actual projects, okay? Some have asked, well, are they going out and buy these projects and buy these bonds, and they're just going to sit there for years? There's even legislation and laws against that, okay? So what they're going to do is do that, each phase. If there's money left over in phase 1 or year 1, so if you have 800 million, you spend 700, that 100 million will kind of piggyback to the next year and so forth. So that's kind of how it works. The bonds, there's been a lot of speculation of 25 years, and you hear that number a lot. We don't know yet how long the bonds will be. What they try to do, based on the bonds and the monies that they actually have, it may be 22 years, it may be 21 years, we don't know. And that's a factor of such things as the amount, the interest rates, things like that. Garvey bonds, on the other hand, are usually around 12 to 12 and a half years, but there again, a lot of times it's shorter. So we'll go as short as we can on the bonds based on the economic conditions of the time of the purchase. So the second thing is tolls. Now, I'm going to speak about this, but it doesn't affect us very much. But it is part of the funding source you hear from Governor Justice and out of the government. What happened was to keep the tolls on the turnpike, mostly in southern West Virginia, that those monies that's generated from revenue of the tolls is being kept on, okay? And there's some caveats there with the locals. But what's happening there again, the money generated from the tolls on the turnpike, mostly in southern West Virginia, is going to be used almost exclusively for the 10 counties surrounding the toll route system. So that money goes there, and they're going to bond that too. And then the Garvey, we talked about that, but we can do up to $500 million on that. We already had around $50 million obligated to that. As I mentioned, the posting or the bidding yesterday was around 190-some million. That money would go to the Garvey bond. But what we're going to be looking at essentially is number 1, the public obligation bonds. That's what we're voting on October 7th. Next, please. What they did, and this is important as we look at the projects and the type of projects, they try to look at this money, the potential monies from the Garvey bonds, from the monies we've already collected, from the tolls. They looked at the money from the potential public obligation bond, and they distributed that around the state. What this drawing or this little map shows you are the projects, some of the projects that's currently listed, and it shows how this affects all 55 counties in West Virginia. Next, please. Selection process. Something I've really appreciated about the process, it wasn't some random process. Most of the projects, if not all of them, were already prioritized on lists that the Division of Highways already had. There's a statewide transportation improvement plan. That's a federal document that we have to have looking at future projects. Those were already listed. There's a National Bridge Inspection Program. When we look at bridges, we have something called sufficiency ratings, okay? The lower the number, the worse the bridge. So they were able to look at bridges that are already in bad shape, and they looked at those. Payment management, and that's where we fall in a lot of times at the local level. We try to put together paving projects that we know that the locals have high impact on our population. And one thing that's unique, and Mr. Austin's here with us in your handout, one of the things that I'll show you is this. The first part of your handout It's called the Long Range Transportation Plan. And on the Long Range Transportation Plan that was generated, and it's mandated to do such through the MPO, they have Tier 1 projects. They're kind of in a blue at the top. The 5 roadway projects, or 5 projects of that type, that was already recommended by the MPO, and it's already been vented, so to speak, through different meetings, are all on the bond projects, okay? So what I'm saying is there's transparency, there's organization, there's reasons why these projects were chosen, and it's based on existing processes we already had in place for the most part. So I'm really encouraged by that. Next, please. Now, just a little tidbit about the DOH, and we almost always put this in a presentation. What folks have to understand about West Virginia, we're very unique. West Virginia has the 6th longest highway system in the United States. That's hard to believe when you think about places like Texas and North Carolina, I think Pennsylvania, California, places like that, and then here's West Virginia. We control 60 or 36,000 miles of highways in the state of West Virginia. One thing I've mentioned, just the paved mileage in my district, which consists of 6 counties, paved mileage is the equivalent mileage that if you got in a car in Morgantown, you could drive to Las Vegas, Nevada, and that's how many paved miles I have in my 6 counties alone. The downside is we don't have much population. Well, it's about 1.7 million people in West Virginia, up and down. And our primary generator is the gas tax, okay? So the gas tax and the generation of funds from the gas tax was a low population. It means we have low dollars per mile to keep our road system up. Now, what I told, and you'll see me quote this quite often, is we don't make excuses about that. What we try to say is we prioritize and work with the resources, the funding, the labor that we have, equipment. We try to do the best we can and do it in a priority order. But the problem is we have a huge network of road systems in West Virginia, the 6th largest. And that's everything from bridges, ADA, slides, county routes, gravel routes, pedestrian things, and somewhere pedestrian bridges. It's just amazing what falls under this. It amazes me every day what we get requests on. Next, please. The waves of the project. Now, I'll try to simplify this the best I can, but the bottom of this is the key. Projects are being advertised as they become ready. Okay, and the next slide will take us right into this, please. We had a $30 million surge already. Okay, the bonds aren't in place. Since July 1st, we've been generating and receiving money from the 3 things: DMV fees, increase in gas tax, and the privilege tax. Those monies has been coming into the funding sources to the Division of Highways. So the $30 million surge, we called it, was monies we had. They looked at some federal monies, and they pulled that forward to do a lot of paving, mostly on their federal routes. If anybody here in the audience or you're familiar with West Virginia 100, I believe that was a project. Bad job, or not bad job, bad project, bad road. If you've driven down towards Maidesville and that, they had nice bridges. They've replaced several of the bridges, but the roads were really bad. That's where that came into that, okay? Some of that money was used on Route 7, I believe, and things like that. And then the next wave, see the 130 million or the 100 million, secondary state local service. So they had some of the additional anticipated money. They've broken that into sections. Okay, there's some lettings that's came, some purchase order work, some projects that's going to be due and done by October of this year. And then we worked up another series of projects that will be due hopefully by March of 2018. That's coming from this $100 million, provided the bond passes. Okay, so that frees that money up. That was mostly paving projects on non-federal routes. Now, we could use it on some federal routes, you know, if we had justification. But that kind of reached down to local citizens. We tried to pick more higher ADT routes that was non-federal aid, okay, state local service, county routes as we speak, and doing that. Then as you go down through here, you see October referendum. It says over $700 million in general operation bonds. I've seen $800 million at that, the first installment. So if they are passing, if it passes, then they'll go out, put all these projects together, prioritize them based on what they can get the contract, and then you'll see bonds purchased for that first wave, okay, of bond projects. To give you an example of how this works, so I can see in that first wave maybe a lot of paving, a lot of resurfacing, slide projects. Again, I use the expression the low-hanging fruit, things that don't involve utilities, right-of-way, environmental clearances. Now, on your bond projects listed for Mon County, for example, you have $100 million for one project. Did you see that? It's the Star City or north of Star City interchange. It's up Van Voorst. It's kind of like part of the mini bypass they've talked about, $100 million. That won't come in wave one, okay? That will probably come, I would guess, wave 3 or 4 years down the road, because they have to start the design, do the environmental clearances, do all these things associated with that to get those things cleared. So I think it's a key to remember, projects will be let as they become available. And then with the 4 waves of the bond totaling $1.6 billion, we're going to see hundreds of projects over that 4-year period. Next, please. Now then, funding source distribution. If you look at this little pie chart, and if you look at the top, you see wave A, B, C, things like that. That was the $30 million from federal. That's the money we got from DMV fees. That's the $100 million of gas tax being generated. Those kind of projects at first. But look at the big green. Okay, that's the bond projects relative. So that's important to understand. All the monies we get, if the bond doesn't pass, and we actually have slides on that, if the bond does not pass, the projects that we were going to do under the bond jobs fall back into the regular program. The $130 million per year that would pay for the bonds now becomes money available to us. But like in my case, because it's often prorated based on mileage, I got $12.3 million this year of that $130 million. That's about what we got, and that's for the whole district. 6 counties, just not Monongalia County. And for example, Mon County has, I think it's 800 and some miles, where Preston County has about a fourth more than that, like 1276. They're all in competition then for that. So that's the way that works. So the bond is really instrumental in the ability to do a lot of work for the highway system. The first installment, we're going to see a lot of these in the bonds. This first phase I was talking about, you're going to see low-hanging fruit, and you're going to see a lot of interstate work. What I tell folks is you got to look at the destination as much as your local road. And I think that's an important concept. One of the things I hear, and I live on a local road system too. I'm not too far from Dr. Hawkins on the other side of the hill. And I know he lives on a local road, you know, and a lot of tractor trailers, I understand lately. Yeah, you know, there's a GPS issue there. Well, I live on a local road too, you know, just on the other side, called Cathy Drive and Circle Drive, little, you know, 14, 16-foot lanes, whatever. Those type of projects end up going somewhere. I get on my local road, I drive down, I get on 119, I go through the Eastern Hill. What do? I hit I-68, right? I go to the I-68-79 interchange, and I drive to exit 121 every day on I-79 to the Meadowbrook Road. That's my destination, okay? That's what I tell folks you got to look at. So here's an example I'm talking about. How many folks, these are major projects on the interstate, low-hanging fruit in the sense most of our interstate, we already own the right-of-way. There's not much environmental, but they're going to redo major interchanges that needs done. And the best example in this I like is the Interstate 79 exit 99. Have you ever driven down to Weston and got off exit 9? Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? You see?
Well, you're trying to get off and people are trying to get on.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's a very unique interchange. It's not a diamond interchange like we're used to seeing. When you get off of the exit 99, you know, you're merging off, and you got the people merging on, and you have a conflict, a multiple conflict points. That's an interchange, for example, that they're going to replace. There's one on Route 50 they're going to look at down here. It's a little later. They're looking on I-79 50. They're looking at sections in Marion County where the Uffington Bridge, the big interstate bridge to the South Fairmont. Very similar problem. If you've ever tried to merge there and get onto the interstate there, you hit the bridge at 2 lanes and all that traffic, a lot of accidents. These are all projects they're going to be doing in the early phase. Big money projects. $60 million in Marion County, $40 million in Weston. $50 million on the interchange. Those are some of the big projects. And then there'll be all their community projects that are easier to get out to contract. Next, please. Now, I guess they want me to emphasize something here. But there is a creation of jobs, and there's no question on that. I was a construction engineer for 12 years over this district. I saw a lot of construction. I appreciate it. Like, I oversaw the construction, like the Star City Bridge. Not only was it a great satisfaction to see a lot of people working on that, but the results of that bridge compared to what was there is breathtaking, compared to what was there. We're going to see a lot of work. The governor's projected thousands. Local contractors are going to be involved. I'm sure there's going to be out-of-state contractors after big projects coming after. But you're talking probably the biggest works program we've ever seen outside of the interstate program. And and the other thing was the tax thing. I know I said it once, I'm going to say it again. People say, well, if this passes, I have a family member who works at one of the local hospitals, and he was talking to me. He's a maintenance guy there, great guy, I love him to death. He's a good family guy. He told me, Donnie, they're all telling me that if we pass this, it's going to increase our taxes. No, it's not. It's already done. That money's already been allocated and been in effect since July 1st. So what happens if the referendum doesn't pass? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the cost of waiting. What our management has done, they've looked at construction costs over the last several years. And if you hit the next button, please. Over the last 13 years, construction has went up 65%. That's just a bottom line number. So what cost $10,000 is now costing $16,500 13 years later. Do you think that number is going to go that way, continue, or is it going to just flatten off? That's going to happen. So one of the reasons, and I'm, about the bonds and why do it now, that's one of the questions we get asked, is you're going to do it cheaper now than waiting 10 years. So you take the expressway project we were talking about north of the Star City exit. If we build it within the next 4 years, it's going to cost this much. With normal funding sources, if we wait 10 or 12 years to build that price is going to go up 65, 70, or 80%. A lot of things are dependent on that. Now, I'm not an economist, but we've seen this. It's just, look at what you paid for your car 20 years ago versus now. Things of that nature. So anyways, that's a reality. It's not a made-up number. It's what our trends have shown in our construction costs. Next, please. And all waves are affected. So let's say the bond does not pass on October 7th. So the money I told you that we had, the $100 million that's coming, that's out of the window. Because now that $100 million won't go to paving. It will go maybe to bridge replacement. All those things that the bond projects had will now have to be filled back in, and funding sources going to that, okay? The beauty of the bond program, in my opinion, and sometimes we don't articulate it quite as well as we need to, is this. When the bonds, if it passes, you take all these projects, all right, that was on the list already for us to do. Now you take them out. What's left? Holes to fill back in. We've had a normal program. It's still going to be there. There's still going to be additional bridges replaced, more additional paving, right? We still have a paving program, things like that. The bond program, if you look at Mon County, for example, it's listed millions of dollars that goes just to paving right now. Well, that's not your future paving program. That's just a kick in now. Multiple miles of new paving, new roads. And that helps us on the maintenance end. Dave McCormick's with me, our maintenance guy. We struggle in Mon County. Y'all have heard it. Well, if we got a road that's repaired right, that's less maintenance for us. Allows our forces to work elsewhere. Every time we pave a road, there's not a pothole to be patched for several years. Okay? And what's nice is these projects are being designed, I believe, correctly. In other words, instead of just putting an inch of asphalt, we're going to fix these roads correctly. Bring them up to a high level and get our foundations built. So the bond program, all those projects listed for Mon County, additional projects in paving and slides, that void will go up here and the bonds will pay for that. It leaves a big void of where those projects were and opens all that funding was going to those to do additional projects. We don't even know what they are yet. Additional paving. So it's a double whammy. You get the bond work then where it's voided out, that's going to fill in with other projects we don't even have listed. And that's really true. We look at safety. One of the things, my background and a lot of part of my education was in highway safety, traffic engineering. And I'm very passionate about safety. And again, when I look at where are you going versus where do you come from, you know, there's times I avoid certain sections of the interstate if I can. I do. There's times, for example, I like getting off at Goshen Road if I have a meeting in Fairmont to drive down by your house. I can send you a picture of a hole or something. You know, we go down that way. Why? Because I don't like going into the traffic, back out of the traffic. We're going to make the interstate system, for example, safer. We're going to take big projects and bridges that are deteriorating and bring them up to a high level. We're going to pave roads, which I think we'd all agree, makes them safer, things like that. Now, one thing people have asked me, and I'm just very transparent on this, was this going to help us cut more brush? Well, indirectly it will, in the sense if we're not patching as many potholes, that gives us freed up labor forces to do the maintenance work, which we call our core maintenance plan, our pothole patching, our brush cutting, our ditching, things that we really want to do. But again, all this by replacing, even our bridge department, we spend a lot of time doing massive repairs on old structures. If we get those out of the system, that lets us work on other structures. So it trickles down in that sense. Next, please. Now, this is pretty extreme looking, but I've seen this. I was a bridge engineer for a lot of my career, and I did the analysis and structural analysis on a lot of bridges. It's like that. There's a lot of bridges in that shape. Doesn't mean they're unsafe. Okay, if they're unsafe, we'll repair them. But that may be the reason, depends on the member type, of why we have 3-ton postings and 5-ton postings and 7-ton postings. Even that beam has some capacity, but like it did new, it may have been 20 tons, now it's carrying 3 tons of load. We want those out of the system for school buses and ambulances and fire trucks. And again, it equates itself to a quality of life to our local citizens. Anytime we replace a posted bridge, it's in everybody's best interest on so many elements. Next, please. And the resources, you know, I'm sure everybody in this audience, including the county commissioners and the clerks and whoever, if I told you to give me a list independently, it all looked different, right? I think you represent 3 sections of the county. You know, you may represent the western end, and you're saying, well, Donnie, what's in this for the western end? Or what's it? What I like doing and what I like addressing is we've looked at this as the whole county. For example, one of the things we looked at in our paving program, the western end of Monongalia County, in my opinion, is a lot different than the eastern end. Right? You got Morgantown that's booming. You got the western end is pretty rural, a lot of farmers and routes like that. And I deal with the delegates over there, and we have a great talk sometimes. Both are very important to the division of highways. But we've been looking hard at putting money on Route 7. There's several new paving projects coming on Route 7. Why Route 7? Route 7 is your connector from the western end in Wetzel County and Mon County, to where a lot of the jobs are, I would assume, in Monongalia County. And I look at this way, Preston County, I was talking to them the other night, how this thing, like I said, you gotta look at your destination, okay? I was talking to the mayor actually, and he lives in southern Preston County. And he was telling me, for example, how a lot of their employees work at the FBI, drive through Taylor County and work off the FBI. So the interchange at I-79 and Route 50 is important to them because they come through there every day to go to the work at the FBI exit. See, it all ties together, more than just your local road, but the whole system. If you want to look at this list, these lists are not etched in stone. We've been working with our management. Matter of fact, and my team here with me today, we're looking at some county projects that maybe isn't on the list that we might think is higher priority, but it's a starting point, okay? But I need to tell you, and we've already done this some, it's flexible, okay? It's flexible. I have my bridge engineer, for example, looking right now at the bridges they've listed in Monongalia County. They're based on sufficiency rating, things we can filter really easily and look at. But there may be a project or a bridge out there, for example, that's really worse in terms of alignment. But it wouldn't show up in this filter, right? It's a good bridge. It's 28 tons. carries its plenty width, but the skew's wrong on it, okay, or something's happened. So for example, we have them looking at these very close, these lists, to see if is there a better bridge that's maybe not caught by the filters central office used. In central office, and I'll need to say this, I'm really proud of the team we have. Tom Smith, some of you met Tom. He's the Secretary of Transportation, a man of integrity. He has a lot of vision. He has a lot. You don't want to run with him. I mean, he'll wear you to death. He had a lot of enthusiasm. Our central office management team's been pulling these lists together. It's pretty overwhelming, if you can imagine. And my local team, they've worked tirelessly doing what I've needed just to put presentations together and data. But we're pretty proud of that. And then this is my contact information. I'm in District 4 in Clarksburg. I think you all know I'm a local resident too. I live here in Mon County. I love Mon County. You know, I went to school here. My family, my child went to school here. But it's a good thing to look at, and that's why we tried to do. In your handout, one of the things that Mr. Austin provided for us, and we took a little liberty to put some things, but for example, if you look at this handout, okay, the pink, now I'm colorblind, I think it's pink, that shows the $100 million bypass, okay? It starts here on Van Voorst, it goes up to West Run, and then it cuts across to a new interchange, $100 million. What's interesting, and what Mr. Austin has showed us, they've already done some modeling of all this. Everything in green, I believe, is a reduction of ADT around 7,000 vehicles. So a good example is it's a Star City Bridge. It has 35,000 vehicles a day. A lot of congestion. There's a lot of congestion all over Morgantown, right? If that project was built based on what they've modeled, it would reduce that 7,000 vehicles a day. That's significant, okay? Is that worth $100 million? That's a great project. You know, and you can see how it affects. Now you do see some routes going up because they have to get to the route, and those will be upgraded too. But that's an example. Next page I've given you, and I may have handed this out before, I don't know. We have a lot of concerns, a lot of comments about the Van Voorst Road. We have a contract there now that's under construction, working at night. They're a little behind schedule, but it's going well, I understand. We pulled some of this money, the early money, that $30 million to $100 million, some of those projects are actual projects on here, like number 2, I believe, and 3, and some of these. We're going to pave some of Van Voorst. It's in bad shape. We know it needs paved. See, so some of the money already being generated off the DMV fees and stuff is already going into Morgantown. And then I think it's Project 6. That's a project that's actually on the bond, I believe. It's a major project in that middle section. But see, it's tying it all together already. And then lastly, on the last page, I had my staff. This is a little different than what's on the website. But I thought this was helpful if you look at this. The green projects, for example, they're projects, I believe most of those are already completed or close to being completed. These are projects came out of that Wave A, that green, $30 million. B, pavings, the $100 million. These are all projects that's already under contract or being worked on, being let to contract. That's all Mon County. It's already came out of your gas tax increase. That's quite a bit of work already. The blue projects, those were projects we called Garvey. Remember the Garvey bonds? That was Garvey 1, right? They let those yesterday. The Blue Horizon Pennsylvania line is the interstate rehab. That came in at, I think, around 16, 17 million yesterday. Bear Contracting got it. It's already let. They're going to get the Garvey bond. That work's going to begin. Plus this structure here, Arnottsville Bridge, Garvey bond, let yesterday. It's going to be under construction. Then below that are the projects we're looking at. Greenback Road, for example, West Run. Those are all projects that was on the MPO's Tier 1 projects. You got the mile ground. You see 2 projects on here that would fund the mile ground. One is the 119, the mile ground, Donna Road. It's 15 million. And then down here, the mile ground, Cheat Road, that's 27 million. That's money to finish the mile ground from Easton Hill to the roundabout. That project's not complex. It's complex in buying right-of-way and utilities and things like that. So that's going to come in one of these waves, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, as soon as we get that cleared. But then you see bridges. You see Pinterest Bridge, Beulah Slam, Gier Slam, Walnut Street Bridge here downtown, a new deck, Smithtown, a slide repair. And if you look at slide repair, NHS payment and non-NHS payment, those are yet to be determined. Those are like paving projects that we're going to put out there. And if you look to the right, almost $12 million in new projects for paving and slides. My total paving program for the whole district in an average year is around $11 million. You're getting my whole paving program in Mon County if this passes for 1 year. And that's that low-hanging fruit. You're going to see those projects shoved out very quickly. So with that said, I appreciate the time. I'm more than open to answer questions. But I really appreciate the opportunity. More than welcome any questions. I don't know how you operate.
Well, we're in a meeting format.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is that we go ahead and adjourn, take a 10-minute recess. We have to come back and talk to you in work session as well as one other work session, if that could be.
Fine, is it okay? I just want to acknowledge in the audience, and I appreciate Delegate Piles, Rodney Piles is here, Senator Beach, Representative Senator Manchin's office, WVU student government leaders are here. So I think what you're doing and showing the importance of everyone being here, I just wanted to thank them, and also then we could talk. But I did want to get that in the public.
Certainly. And Mr. Williams has mentioned a couple times, Bill Austin is also in the audience, and he's our MMPO director. And when you were talking about filling that void, I could see Bill's mind running because our plan goes out till what, 2040? 45, where those are a bunch of plans that may never see the light of day, but will circulate up to the top. And those are things that, again, they might be things that would never be considered, but this will give those the opportunity to be considered.
And I think during the work session too, we'll have
Yeah.
consideration of a
I'll just
resolution to.
take a seat and let you finish.
Yeah,
I
so-
do have the thing on the 150,000 where
Well,
we work that in.
That's during work session.
Okay.
What I'm suggesting is we go ahead and adjourn.
Well, the only reason why I asked not to adjourn is, since we're in regular session, I'd like to move to do the resolution, so we do it in work session now.
You mean in regular session?
In regular session now, not work session, because work session, we'd have to wait a week. Is that,
It's not on the
Do
agenda.
we have a
so-
resolution?
It's out
oh,
there.
it's not on
but
the
it's not
agenda?
on the
Never
agenda.
mind, then we'll talk about it in work session.
All right. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Properly moved and second to adjourn. We adjourn.